He discovers a particularly lucrative job in the newspaper, promising $100,000 for just 2 weeks of work. He assumed the work must be extremely difficult, yet, to his surprise, the interview supervisor, Dr. Archuleta, publicly announced that it was merely a game. Moreover, during the next 2 weeks, each participant would only need to eat and sleep, and they could easily walk away with $100,000 in cash. Seeing the job is so effortless, Travis decisively chooses to participate. But what he didn't know was that he was about to face a brutal real-life experiment. On the first day of the experiment, a bus drove the 26 participants directly to a closed-off building in the wilderness. All of them came from the bottom of society. Some were closeted homosexuals, some were ex-convicts, and most were drowning in debt. Before officially starting, Dr. Archuleta announced the most important rule. Violence was strictly forbidden. If anyone got into a fight, the alarm light on the wall would immediately flash, signaling that the experiment had failed, and no one would receive the $100,000 prize. Then, Dr. Archuleta called roll, dividing the 26 into 2 groups. 6 would act as prison guards, and the remaining 20 would play prisoners. Once the prisoners entered their cells, Dr. Archuleta announced 5 rules, with 2 being critical. First, prisoners were not allowed to talk to guards without permission. Second, prisoners were not allowed to touch the guards. If any prisoner broke a rule, all prisoners would face collective punishment. If the guards failed to punish a prisoner promptly, the experiment would also be deemed a failure. The guards' first task was to wash the prisoners. But just as the washing began, Chase, who had certain peculiar interests, spotted his target. Fortunately, at this point, Chase didn't dare to act too boldly. After the shower, a group of them even joked around, and everyone thought this was just a boring game. However, trouble came sooner than expected. While playing basketball, prisoner Governor accidentally hit guard Bosch in the face with the ball, leaving Bosch's mouth full of blood. Although Governor repeatedly apologized, and Bosch himself didn't want to press the matter, Chase, now holding power, firmly declared that Governor must be punished, aiming to make an example of him and establish guard authority. But Governor insisted it wasn't intentional and refused to accept punishment. His words angered Chase.
This is not a negotiation. Do the push-ups.
After Governor refused a second time, Chase ordered all prisoners to be punished together. The prisoners were initially very resistant, but unexpectedly, one prisoner chose to comply first. That act triggered a herd mentality, and this moment shattered the fragile peace, allowing the guards to taste the intoxicating allure of power. Among them, Baris was especially struck. After punishing the prisoners, several guards felt smug. The rush of dominating others was even more satisfying than drinking a cold beer on a hot summer day. But the prisoners felt deeply humiliated. By the second day, they collectively erupted. At mealtime, the prisoners found a pool of black paste in their food, which looked disgusting. None of them wanted to eat it, and Travis had no appetite either, planning to throw it away. But Helwig stopped him.
It's beans. Rule number 1. It's not like I'm being unreasonable here, right? Eat them.
Travis disagreed with Helwig's reasoning. Oscar came over to support Travis, but Helwig still insisted that Travis must finish it. Hearing this, Oscar deliberately pretended his hand slipped, dumping the entire tray into the trash can. While Helwig stood awkwardly, Chase spoke up. His words made Helwig smirk with schadenfreude, but enraged Travis, who poured the paste onto Helwig's hand, saying this filth could go to hell. Seeing this, Chase immediately ordered a collective punishment. This time, Governor, who had been humiliated the day before, stepped forward, first throwing a chunk of food at Helwig, then taunting him relentlessly. Other prisoners joined in, seizing the chance to vent their frustration. Sensing danger, Helwig quickly locked the door. By then, the dining hall was in complete chaos, with food scattered everywhere. The prisoners' defiance infuriated Chase, who racked his brain to come up with a way to punish them. At that moment, the usually quiet Baris spoke.
I got an idea.
That night, the guards stormed into the cells, using carbon dioxide fire extinguishers to spray thick smoke at the prisoners. They took advantage of the prisoners' weakened state when they were unable to resist, to subdue them one by one. Baris then handcuffed Travis to the iron door. Travis kept questioning him on why he would do such a thing, but the once timid and cowardly Baris now seemed like a completely different person.
It's for inciting them. What? You need to shut.
Next, Baris delivered a passionate speech, and even used his privilege as a guard to force other prisoners to obey and respond to his commands. This sense of domination brought by power further unleashed the demon within Baris. Back in the break room, the guards took turns high-fiving Baris in celebration. Bosch not only gained the recognition and respect of the other guards, but also had his vanity greatly satisfied, even experiencing a twisted rush of pleasure. Staring at his own ferocious reflection in the mirror, Baris was both shocked and exhilarated. A warped soul was thus born. Meanwhile, in the prison, the earlier intense confrontation had unexpectedly triggered prisoner Benji's diabetes, and he urgently needed insulin. But the guard beside him completely ignored him. With no other choice, Benji lay back down on his bed. It wasn't until roll call the next day that the guards noticed Benji's condition was serious. Infuriatingly, even though the guards knew Benji needed special medication, no one took it seriously. No matter how Benji pleaded for the guards to fetch his medicine, they showed no concern, even forcibly dragging him out of the cell. The guards' cold indifference deeply disgusted the justice-driven Travis. But his request was not only met with Baris's firm rejection, it was also met with Baris's insults. Seeing Travis still unwilling to submit, Baris resorted to threats of punishment. Baris's actions further provoked the other prisoners. As tensions mounted, the guards quickly herded the prisoners back into their cells, preventing the situation from escalating. Back in the cell, Nix advised Travis from his own experience that in such a closed environment, the law of the jungle was the unchanging truth. Travis's actions had already crossed the line with the guards who represented authority, and if he refused to bow his head, retaliation was inevitable. In fact, the guards had already marked Travis as a thorn in their side and decided to punish him severely. But the problem was that the rules did not allow the guards to use violence. It was then that Baris proposed another vicious idea. That night, Baris led a group into the cell, forcibly dragging Travis to a blind spot away from the cameras, then tying him to a chair. After shaving Travis's head, Baris smugly declared his dominance.
This place, it belongs to us.
He then asked Travis if he would submit, and when Travis said no, Baris's face turned feral as he kicked Travis to the ground. Even then, he felt it wasn't enough, and after taking a swig of alcohol, Baris unzipped his pants. Travis realized what was about to happen, but at that moment, he was powerless to resist. Baris urinated on Travis's head, wearing an expression of satisfaction. Some were disgusted by such an act, but no one stepped in to stop it. Baris kept calling for the other guards to join in, and most of them did not refuse. Many workplace and school bullying incidents are born this way. Good people too afraid of group rejection to intervene, and those participating in the abuse becoming tied together by complicity. After this round of torment, Travis suffered both mental and physical trauma. With the stench of urine clinging to him, he silently walked back to his cell, deeply regretting ever joining this experiment. When his cellmates expressed concern, Travis just shook his head, tore off his clothes, and frantically tried to wash himself clean. The dirt on the outside could be washed away, but the damage inside would never be erased. In stark contrast to Travis's pain, Baris wore a smug grin. After days of twisted behavior, Baris was already subtly seen as the leader among the guards. Pointing to the indicator light on the wall, he said, "The red light didn't come on. The people running this experiment saw it, but they didn't stop me. That means what I did was right." Faced with Baris's vile attitude, Bosch finally couldn't stand it anymore. From that moment, division began to form within the guards, and a seed of unease was planted in Baris's mind, because if anyone quit midway, the experiment would fail, which he couldn't allow. On the fourth day during mealtime, Travis quietly hid a piece of bread and brought it to the seriously ill Benji. By now, Benji's whole body was swollen, and Travis urged him to quit the experiment. In order to get the $100,000 prize, Benji not only refused to withdraw, but even took advantage of Travis's kindness, selfishly asking him to find the insulin. Benji never once considered that this would subject Travis to even greater humiliation. To help Benji, Travis secretly approached guard Bosch, pleading with him to search the storage room for Benji's medication. While Bosch went to look for the medicine, guard Chase completely let himself go. He entered the cell to wake Oscar, then took him to an empty cell, intending to force Oscar to provide him with special services, only to be unexpectedly caught by Baris. As the two argued, someone noticed on the monitors that Bosch was retrieving medicine. Seeing Bosch helping a prisoner, Baris was furious. Faced with Baris's moral coercion, Bosch reluctantly handed over the medicine. But unexpectedly, Baris came up with an even more vicious plan. He framed Travis for it and then dragged him into the bathroom. In the bathroom, Travis kept explaining, trying to get Baris to stop before it was too late. But Baris felt his authority was being challenged and questioned. To assert his dominance, he ordered Travis to lick the toilet clean. Seeing Travis refuse to submit, he had others forcibly drag Travis to the toilet, then commanded the guards to shove Travis's head deep into the bowl. Throughout the process, Baris continued trampling on Travis's dignity.
Say it for me.
After repeated humiliation, Travis finally broke, just to end the ordeal. He was forced to utter the words Baris wanted to hear. Hearing Travis's submission, Baris's face twisted into an evil grin. These repeated blows completely crushed Travis. He hid in a corner out of the camera's view, covering his head with his clothes, sobbing uncontrollably. He had thought of leaving, ending this absurd experiment, but by now he was no longer in control of his own fate. After tormenting Travis, Baris didn't spare Bosch either. In his eyes, Bosch had already become a traitor among the guards. So, acting as the prison warden, he lured Bosch into a secluded corner, where a group then swarmed him and beat him with fists and kicks. Early on the 5th day, Baris deliberately announced in front of everyone that Bosch had broken the rules, stripping him of his guard status and classifying him as a prisoner. What was even more infuriating was that, despite clearly being a thug, he compared himself to a judge. Baris's words finally enraged the long-suppressed Travis. He could not, for the sake of money, endlessly tolerate being trampled on, so he stripped off the prison uniform that represented his identity and threw it to the ground. The other prisoners followed suit. Baris began to panic, shouting for the prisoners to put their uniforms back on, but Travis ignored him. Then Travis leapt onto the fence, shouting at the cameras to immediately end the experiment. To his despair, no matter how he shouted, the experimenters gave no response. Baris yanked Travis down and clamped his hands around his neck in a threat, but Benji rushed forward to help and was struck on the head by Baris with a club. Watching Benji collapse and convulse on the ground, everyone was stunned. They could not believe what they had just seen. Then, to everyone's shock, Baris fell into even deeper madness after a brief pause. He ordered Travis locked inside a sealed old boiler pipe, shut the iron door, and left him in darkness. He then ordered all prisoners herded back to their cells, attempting to contain the situation. These successive incidents finally made some guards fearful. They believed Baris had gone mad, as his actions repeatedly crossed lines and grew increasingly dangerous. Baris still tried to justify his actions. Although he convinced some guards not to leave, it was only the calm before the storm. Time finally reached the 6th day. Bosch sat at the monitoring desk as if possessed, staring at the still unlit alarm light, a ferocious smile twisting his face. Meanwhile, Chase sank even deeper into depravity, hanging Oscar from a steel pipe and forcing him to please him. But Chase didn't know that inside the boiler pipe, Travis had already found a way to escape. He used a piece of metal to pry open the latch on the door. Then a scream rang out from the cell. It was clear Oscar had just been assaulted. Seeing this, Travis's emotions erupted. After dealing with Chase, they took keys to the other cells and began freeing the furious prisoners. When Travis found Benji, he saw there was no breath left in him. The enraged prisoners gathered, planning revenge against the guards. Hellwig saw this and was so terrified he could barely speak. But Baris, drunk on power, refused to give up. He even prepared to fight back with a knife. Seeing the prisoners smashing the door in a frenzy, the guards abandoned Baris and fled the monitoring room. Watching the glass door about to shatter, Baris, deserted by everyone, finally chose to flee too. The furious prisoners broke through the iron door and charged after them with metal rods. At another gate, the guards' escape was blocked. Still scheming, Baris tried to rally the guards, but they only wanted to run. The prisoners caught up, and a chaotic brawl erupted. 7 days earlier, they had been strangers. Now they were mortal enemies. All rules and order had vanished, leaving only savagery and violence. In the chaos, Travis confronted Baris. Baris had a hidden knife and tried to stab him without hesitation, but Travis caught the blade and survived. An angry prisoner rushed forward to hit Baris but was shoved away by Travis. Travis, also having lost control, pounded Baris's face with punch after punch, unleashing his fury. As the chaos continued, everyone around lost their reason. Finally, the alarm light on the wall lit up. And the blaring siren brought them back to their senses. As the iron door slowly rose, the real-life experiment finally ended. In just 7 short days, the experience had made them feel as if a lifetime had passed. Everyone hung their heads, unable to comprehend how it had all come to this. Soon after, police disclosed the case and arrested the experimenters. Baris was sentenced to prison for manslaughter. The experiment not only exposed the darkest corners of human nature, but also hit close to our own lives. It's hard to imagine how deeply environment shapes a person. A uniform and a title can completely change someone's nature. Even knowing it was just a game, the participants could not pull themselves out. When power is granted, how many guards are quietly born in workplaces and social circles? And faced with injustice, how many prisoners choose to remain silent? Power brings oppression and corruption, and obedience carries its own heavy price. The dark side of human nature often needs only the smallest trigger to be fully unleashed.